I'm Frank, an alcoholic, and it's really nice to be back here. Hey, Robert, one of my mentors. Many of them are here, but it's a privilege to come back here, and it's a privilege because this is where I got sober at, and I can just tell you from my experience in Alcoholics Anonymous, it's real simple. It's about following directions, and I don't do that very well. And I remember Mr. Harold back here one night was in a meeting one day. And I'll never forget some of the things that have been said to me. And this is my second time here, and I'd been to other places. And he wasn't speaking directly to me at the point, but he said some of us get to a point where we become unteachable, don't we, Frank? And see, I need those kind of men in my life because it was true, and it can be true today too. So I got sober many days prior to the sobriety date I have now, but it was April the 20th of 2005, and today's the longest day I've ever been sober. And, I fought against sobriety. I fought against following directions, authority. It didn't matter if it was my parents or school teachers or whomever. Anybody that's ever tried to help me, I'm like, they don't know what they're doing. And the truth is, I've never really known what I was doing, and that's current today. I can come up with some great ideas, and they sound real good until I run them by somebody that's, got their head on right. And I want to tell Mr. Darrell, he was sitting here. First time I ever spoke here, I said, I'm Frank, I'm an alcoholic and an addict. After the meeting, he said, you better come up out of that attic and find out who you are. And I was like, oh, Lord, I messed that one up, But anyway, I grew up over in Sherrall, not too far from here, and I was born in Raleigh. At about the age of 2, we moved over there. And my mom and dad drank, and they drank every day. They did the best they could. My dad died in 98, around 15 years sober, maybe 20, don't remember exactly. My mom, she's sober now, and she's 84 years old, and she's gone through some struggles as age presents itself to us. Anyway, there was drinking and chaos the whole time. And anybody, I don't think that my story is any different than most alcoholics. I think most of us come from some type of dysfunction within ourselves or our family, and we drink a lot of liquor. And we end up coming to AA, and we get a big book and sponsor, and it kind of levels out, and we get some new tools. At least that's what I've experienced with Alcoholics Anonymous in my life. I will say, though, without men that I've mentioned names here tonight, there is no way I'd be sober. There ain't no way. There's a lot of things I thought I could do, and some I could, but this deal about staying sober, it's so simple but so difficult. And what I believe in myself is I suffer from a mental illness. And it was pointed out to me by my sponsor when we talked about that, because it talks about the illness in the book. And he said, the things that you were doing, was there many people doing those same things that you were doing? Like at 3 o'clock in the morning doing, going in homes that you ain't supposed to be in and taking things. I'm like, no, it was me and one other guy. He said, you know what most people do that are, solid and sound minded at home, getting rest, go to work the next day. And I needed those kind of conversations to point out the seriousness of the condition that I was in. And but I came from Sherrall. We ended up going to Wilmington, North Carolina. Well, Summerville, and then to Wilmington. And it was just a bunch of drinking. Ain't no need to get into all of that. I mean, my mom and dad, like I said, they did the best they could. I was like 15 at the time. We ended up moving to Wilmington, and they left there and went to Edenton up near the Outer Banks. And not everybody's this way, but I can just say that my whole life I was spoiled. My mom and dad drank, and I knew how to manipulate. I knew how to, they would drink, and I noticed when they would drink, they'd like, here's a bicycle, go play. I'm like, absolutely. And so my sponsor pointed out, he said, the squeaky wheel always gets the oil. And when I was a kid, if I kicked and I screamed loud enough, I knew I was going to get what I wanted, just to shut me up. And, I found out that ain't a good way to parent. I didn't do much better with my daughter, probably worse, if the truth be known. But that's kind of what happened. I stayed in Wilmington my junior and senior year. My parents had moved away, like I said, and so I had a car to drive, an apartment, and had a foosball table and a bunch of beer, and guys would come over, and I didn't really like drinking. I mean, as a kid growing up, it was read tonight, where it said some of us suffer from grave emotional mental disorders, and I'm here to tell you I got that. Like, as a kid, there's some things I've seen that kids ain't supposed to see, man. Not at 4 and 5 years old. We've all seen some things that have scarred us mentally. Like, they ain't going away. Like, I can tell you real clear right now, I remember what happened at that kitchen sink in, 1972. I was 10 years old. And it wasn't a pretty sight. And that's the kind of stuff that I go back to my bedroom at 10 years old, and I just go, what was that? But I don't ever forget that stuff. And once again, they drank a lot, and they fought a lot, and it made sense why today I'm insecure in a lot of areas in my life. It can be in relationships, it can be in finances, the list can go on and on and on. I'm not saying had I been brought up, in a real secure environment that I would be real secure, but I can tell you right now, there's some things that trigger me, buddy, and fear is one of them, and I'll ruin everything in my life over fear. And so I stayed there in town. I graduated at Laney High School in 1980. Had a chance to go to junior college, two little 2-year schools on a golf scholarship. But what my dad didn't know is they would offer you a scholarship, but then you had to see what your grades looked like, and I wasn't going to get in nowhere. Because I didn't study. I didn't take no books to the classroom. I didn't like school. The only way I got through school was cheating. The only way I ever got through school. I thought I was so smart. My teacher here's my desk, and my buddy, his is right there. And so she passed out the paper. I'm like, that's going to be too easy. So I'm just jotting his A, B, C, D. I'm going to write on the list. So he gets his paper back. He made like a 96. I can't wait to get mine back. She had me mine back. I made a 32. She goes, different test. I'm like, dang, boy. Yeah, got me on that one. But that's all I ever did. I've been a shortcut artist, cheat, thief. That's what I brought to Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what I brought here in 2005. And I remember there was other treatment centers that I'd gone to, but failure was really easy for me. I didn't have to struggle real hard for it. It just was like it was there at all times. Whether it was losing driver's license, losing girlfriends, relationships, jobs. And I had some really, like women, they were nice. I had some nice ladies. I don't know what they saw in me, but they were nice. And, they didn't do the things I did. I don't know how that happened, but it happened quite a bit. In and out of relationships and in and out of jobs. Not in the last couple of years, I probably had like 4 or 5 W-2s, couldn't keep a job, became, unemployable, truth be known. And I remember in probably 2002, 2003, I was going down to Wilmington, and I would go from Myrtle Beach to Wilmington and live on them streets down there. And I wasn't about to come off them streets. You go into an old liquor house or some other house and stay there as long as you can, hoping somebody's going to throw you something, and just go stay in the old abandoned house over there. And, so you'd ask me how it was going back then. I'd say, it's going all right. It ain't great, but it's because it became a lifestyle, as a lot of alcoholics do. It just becomes a normal way of living. I get it. It ain't normal. I'm not an idiot. But, for people like me, it becomes I get used to it. And what I really get used to is that alcohol and that other substances, and I ain't letting go of it. It's the craziest thing in the world. It's killing me. Ain't no doubt it's killing me, but I ain't going to let go of it. And so when I came here in 2005, let's see, I think I owed the Internal Revenue a wad of money. I owed the state a wad of money. I had a deficiency judgment on a car. Well, it hadn't came yet because I hadn't found a car. That was like the fourth one through GMAC. I was a two-time convicted felon. So, it's pretty clear I didn't come here on a winning streak, I mean, it was like, I ain't never going to come out from under this. And, but what was my choices? What were the choices? Well, when I got here, and I like to talk about this because this is where the recovery began. Sometimes, and I've heard wise men say this, and it's true, when it looks like life is just crumbling down all around me, that's God putting it back together. But I can't see that. I learn in AA, we live forward and learn backwards. There's things that will happen in my life, I won't understand them for 10 years, and I'll go, that's what they meant. Just kind of like I'm over here cleaning the trash can, and over here, my relationship with my daughter gets better. Oh, okay. It's just, it's truly amazing. But I came here, and I had a lot of bulls popping out of me, man. It was terrible. It was terrible. And they weren't going away no time soon. I was taking some medicine, had run out. I've been here 2 days. Second time I was here. I thought me and Harold were friends. I didn't know he loved me. I thought we was friends. And I was sitting out front out there, and boy, he lit into me like he can do it. And it scared me. Because he called me out on my stuff, And I knew he was right. So I ain't never had many men call me out, like that. And he did. And, man, I sat out there in mosquitoes. Let's see, whatever the month is before. Well, no, it was in April. Sat out there on the mosquitoes. Man, I sat for an hour and a half. It was from like 5 to 6:30. I was scared to move. I didn't know what to do. So I said to myself, well, here's what you do. Go back there to your room. Keep your mouth shut. That'll be a challenge. Keep your mouth shut. And if somebody says hello to you, speak to them. And if they ask you to do something, do it. And that's what you do. I was 42 years old, and that was the best I could do. And so about 2 weeks into it, Robert came up to me. First time I was too arrogant to go to a halfway house. They presented that idea. I'm like, halfway house? Well, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Second go around, I'm like, tell me about that halfway house. But it was like the fifth treatment center I'd been to. I was a real slow learner, And they said, well, you don't need to know much about it, but it's a good place for you to go. Like, they're going to sit there and, like, try to sell me on the idea, And they said, what's up there at Aberdeen? I said, well, I ain't never heard about Aberdeen. I heard they got a lot of recovery up there, though. I ain't like Aberdeen because I knew people up there got sober, all I'd done, I'd gone to Wadesboro, here, Albemarle. I never stayed sober because I ain't never tried. I never done what nobody told me to do. I went to AA meetings for 12 years. I didn't do nothing. I got high and drunk. I didn't even care about staring at women because I didn't want to share none of the stuff I had, But the only reason I came to AA was to keep my family off my back. That was the only reason. I wasn't ready to get sober. And so I stayed here, and Robert said about that halfway house, and I said, well, yeah, because honestly, I owed a lot of people a lot of money, and it won't banks and institutions, it was people. And I thought, well, I don't want to go back there. I never stayed sober going back to the place I came from, never. Now, that's my story. I know people that have. I just ain't never been successful at it. I grew up in Wilmington. I lived there about 28 years. I went in there today. Or did I just lie? I think I did anyway. Yeah, I know I did go down there today. But I came home. I've been doing the same line of work now for about 30 years. 10 years of it, where I live at now, I drive to Wilmington back about every day, but I don't stay. I don't know, there's something inside of me that says, no, you can go back home and come back tomorrow and pay that gas money. People say, why don't you get a motel room? I'm like, no. What the adage is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I just head on back, But I went to the halfway house, and I fell asleep between here and Aberdeen and got up there, and I had a clear bag with some clothes in it. And they weren't all folded, and they just said, well, go ahead on in. I'm like, where am I at? They said, right there's the door. And went in there, and Hugh, he was the fellow that worked there, and he said, we knew you was coming. He said, not like that, like I was special, just I guess they tell people they got somebody coming or whatever. And so I said, hey, they said I'm supposed to get a sponsor. Will you sponsor me? he started laughing. He said, man, we ain't sponsoring nobody here, man. He said, you have to get someone over there. What do you do for a living? I said, well, I sell cars. He said, well, you'll be drunk in a week. Come on. I went, God almighty. Yeah. So I'll never forget, I was sitting there, and Todd was the other guy working there at the time. It's probably, I ain't been there a day or two. And where I'm really scared of is being alone by myself, you know. Not as much today, but at that time, like I love to take off and go get drunk, you know. And I was sitting on that back patio out there, and he said, hey, he stuck his head, he said, I'm going to run and get the guys. It was around 4 o'clock, and that door closed. I went, whoa, who's here? I said, hey, who's here? He said, you. I said, I'm going to ride with you. And so I did. I rode with him, and the main person I didn't trust was me. And something told me that if I was to drink again or do other substances, that there were times where I'd gotten myself in a lot of debt, like a lot of debt. And I would be telling these stories of these dealers like, come Thursday now, I got this big check coming. And you know, you spend thousands of dollars and they're going, there you go. You better have that check, that's all I'm telling you. And the check never come. And there was some things that, you know, that happened. And I'm like, somebody say, I can't stop. And I'm going to tell you whatever I got to tell you. I'm telling you, I ain't stopping. And I don't even know, but I'm putting my life on the line. And see, somebody's eventually going to take it. I've seen people get killed for not seen it, but I know them have died for a whole lot less than what I got away with. And I found out I won't get away with nothing really. So I went to halfway house, and they said, you're going to go to 4 meetings. You're going to sign that yellow pad. Well, these are rules. Got a chore. But when I got there, he wanted me back there. He goes, now, there's your bed. I'm like, damn, that's pretty nice there. And there's where you put your clothes. Over here is where the shower is. Towels are there, soap's there. And we eat at 6 o'clock. I'm like, I ain't had no money. I just moved right on in. $90 a week. They give you like 3 or 4 weeks to get a job. I think it was 3. But, and then like I say, you know, you had your things to do there, your chores, and go to a certain amount of meetings a week, I think 4. And it was fun, man. It was fun. I loved it. You know, I began to stay sober. Like, I don't remember ever picking up an honest 3-month chip. I don't remember. I might have picked one up in, say, 15 years. A ton of white chips. If you ever go any place and go look at the cabinet, maybe even here, you look at your white chip bag compared to your rest of your chips, and there'll be a ton of white chip bag. You're wondering, why is there so many white chips? Because people don't stay sober. That's why. They keep them chips, you know. And that's what my sponsor eventually showed me. So anyway, they said, you know, you need to get a sponsor. I'm like, yep, I'm going to get one of them. I'm going to get one of them this time. So I did. I picked a man. I figured it was based on the years. If a man stayed sober 30 years, then he's the best one to get. That's the way I looked at it. And so I did. I picked this fella. He's passed on now. Good man. But what happened was he played golf, and I was working at a car lot. I didn't even have a driver's license. And when I got that job, the guy started to give me the job, and I'm like, sir, hold on. I said, I'm a convicted felon 2 times. I said, I ain't got a driver's license. I live in a halfway house. I've been sober 32 days. I said, I'm looking for somebody to take a chance on me. Boy, they told me to be honest. I'm like, okay. Because I know it's coming, you know, the background check and all that. Just get it out of the way. So I put the ball in his court, and he just looked at me. He goes, hold on 1 minute. I'll be right back. And eventually I ended up getting a job there. And background checks are a pretty big deal now. I mean, it's hard to get a job at McDonald's this day and time with something bad on your record. But anyway, I started working there and got this sponsor. In about 3 months, I was riding dope areas looking for prostitutes, and I knew I was about to drink. Because I always heard, you know, the solutions in the steps, but we won't do nothing. You know, he was playing golf and I was working. He'd say, well, how's work? And I'm like, it's going okay. And I'd say, how's your golf game? And so on Thursday, we were having this big book study in the coffee room, kitchen in Aberdeen. And I walked in there, and I said, guys, I said, look, this is what I'm doing, man. I just, right when I walked in, I just kind of blurted it out. And they said, And they talked to me. And I don't know what happened. I ain't saying that, I don't know. I just know whatever. I didn't get drunk or high. And there was another defining moment. There was a fellow that was here when I was here, and he went there. And I wanted to have sex. And 3 months sober. And he called me at the payphone there, and he said, hey, meet me down at the park here. There's some girls across town here. We're going to go over there. I said, absolutely. I run down that park, got in the car. Man, I smell alcohol big time. It wasn't so much the girls that scared me, which it probably should have. But it was, I knew he was drunk. And we was living in a halfway house together. And he went to roll, 10, 15 minutes. I said, stop the car. Now, that was a defining moment in my recovery, I'm here to tell you. He said, what is it? I said, I can't go, man. I got to go. I got out and ran. I ran back to the halfway house. I sure did. I was scared, man. I was scared, And so what happened was I was at a meeting, and the fellow that was sponsoring, his name was Jack Quinn, or Queenie, and I was chairing the meeting, and there's a fellow sitting over here on the wall, and the topic was on trust. I'd never seen this man before in my life. And, the topic was on trust. And when he shared, he shared with a calmness and a delivery that really was attractive. And he said, I come to the meeting. At the end of the share, he said, I come to the meetings because I love you. And he said, I lock the doors on my truck because I know you. And probably most people here tonight that drove locked their car, we are in AA. Got to know where I'm at in the pecking order of life, and it ain't, But, but there was some wisdom in what he said, and I'm like, man, that dude. So he just made a beeline straight to me, and he said, I hear you're new. And I said, absolutely, sir, I'm new. He said, what you getting ready to do? And I said, well, I've got a curfew. I live at the halfway house. And he said, we gonna go get a cup of coffee? That's the key. Everybody's like, you want to get a cup of coffee? Cup of coffee. Cup of coffee and a cigarette. And so anyway, I said, yes. We rode over to Frankie's coffee shop and sat there. And what happened was, and this will happen now, I'm telling you, I got so tired that I started just blurting out stuff. I couldn't believe what I was saying. He said, yeah, the truth will come out. And about 12 o'clock, you get real tired, And he was listening. That's called a learned skill. I didn't know that. Because when you're talking, I'm trying to think what I'm getting ready to say back to you. I ain't listening to nothing you're saying. And he was listening. And I didn't know he was listening. So the next week popped around. I knew his name, but I didn't have his phone number or nothing. He's sitting over there again, and the meeting's over. He walks right on. He goes, Frank, right? And I said, yeah, Tom. He said, yeah. He said, what you doing? I said, well, hopefully go get some coffee. And we did. And at the third Friday night in a row, tears were about to come out of my eyes, and I said, man, I need a sponsor. He said, well, I thought you had one. I said, well, I do. And I told him what I told y'all. I said, man, I'm about to get drunk. I ain't doing nothing, man. I ain't doing nothing. I said, I don't even know how to stay sober. All the thoughts in my head. He said, well, I'll tell you what. So I said, would you sponsor me? He said, well, hold on. He said, you go to that man that's sponsoring you and you tell him thank you for everything he's done. And you really appreciate what he's done, but you decided to go another route. He said, once you do that, then you come back. And I'm like, ooh, man, if I don't have that guy as a sponsor. And this guy says, no, I'm in trouble, But I'm new. I've never done AA. I don't know what, just do what you're told to do. And so I went to Mr. Jack and met him at the coffee pot the following night. And I said, the exact words, I said, I appreciate everything you've done for me. And I've decided to go a different route. And he said, I understand. And so I saw Tom or called him. I don't know. Probably had his number. I called him or talked to him. But we don't never do a lot over the phone. It was always face to face. And we met. And I said, I did what you told me to do, sir. Now, he's younger than me, but it's sir. It was going to always be sir. You can bet on that. And he said, okay. And I said, would you sponsor me? And he said, I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and don't answer them tonight, but let me know tomorrow. I want you to think about it. And he said, are you willing to go to any length for victory over alcohol, and you really think you're lit this time? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, I just asked you to think about it. And he wasn't browbeating me. He wasn't like, look, dummy, you know. He said, I asked you to think about it. He said, it's pretty serious. You know, think about it and then let me know tomorrow. I said, yes, sir, I apologize. He said, well, I'll see you tomorrow. So next day come around, and you can bet I was there, buddy. And I said, yes, sir. The answer is yes to both of them. He said it'd be a privilege to be your sponsor. And I'll never forget, we sat down at that table. He started saying things that, like, wise things that weren't like a hit on me or a dig against me. He said, you've gone to meetings for how long? I said, God knows, 12 to 15 years. He said, well, just so you know now, this ain't no spiritual program of attendance. He said, it's a spiritual program of action. And I'm like, well, that makes sense, because I ain't never stayed sober. I ain't never done nothing. And he said, now I'm going to tell you something. He said, you probably don't know this, but you've already got what it takes to get sober and stay sober. And buddy, I'm here. Yeah, that's right. My ears perked up too. Yeah, I was like, do I? He said, every alcoholic does. He said, you remember when you told me them 3 Friday nights what you did to get drunk and do all that stuff? Jumping in them houses 3 in the morning, walking them hot roads with no shoes on, but blisters on your feet. You remember told me all that? I went, oh yeah, I remember that real clear. He said, Frank, that's called willingness. That's just been misdirected. He said, we're going to get you doing some things in here. And the key to the thing about willingness is, he said, you don't have to like to do it. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, good. He said, you don't have to want to do it. And I'm like, okay. He said, but you got to do it. And that's all there was to it. Like, there ain't no gray part. You know, when I'm become unwilling, my actions are going to show it. It ain't got nothing to do with this. I can guarantee you that. Like, I can't think my way into good living, but they say follow your feet and you'll see where you're headed, you know. And the other part of that is I can live my way into good thinking, and that's true. You know, it's kind of like the dumb man approach. Just get on your knees, pray, check mark. You know, read the 24-hour, check mark. You know, you got a little list of things you do. I do each day. Check. Okay, now I can go to work now. And you know, but when I get up here and start thinking, it don't work out too good. So we started doing some step work, and one of the things that always scared me was this God deal. And he said, so we read the nice to know information in the book, how AA got started, and how Dr. Bob and or Bill and Dr. Bob got together, and Abby and all that good stuff, all the way through the Rockefellers and Jack Alexander and the pole vaults and the people that helped AA grow, which is really some nice to know information. I mean, I remember we started, and I said, why are we starting all the way in the cover of the book? Why don't we start over here at Bill's story? He said, you ever walked into a movie and it had been playing like 15 minutes, and you look at your buddy and go, hey, tell me what's going on. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. He said, well, we're going to start at the beginning of the movie. He said, there's some nice to know information in here, and then we're going to get to the need to know. And he wasn't being smart or funny or anything like that, but all that made sense, you know, because I got to have stuff broke down to me like that. And so we did. We started on the front cover of the book. I'll never forget it. If you get a book and look at it, there's a flappy page right after the blue cover. And I hadn't written in it or nothing. He said, what do you see? I said, I don't see nothing. He said, well, that's what you know about staying sober. And he wasn't, once again, he wasn't like dummy, ha, 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 ha. I was like, you know, he's making some sense here, because I don't know nothing about staying sober. And so anyway, we started reading, and we get up to, doctor's opinion. And he said, now, I'm going to tell you something. He said, just so you know, there ain't but one opinion in AA. We don't care about your opinion. We want to hear about your experience, strength, and hope. He said, but the only opinion that matters is the doctor's opinion. I'm like, okay, it makes sense. And see, the doctor's opinion, he wasn't an alcoholic, but he had worked with thousands and thousands for years, 2 decades with drunks and alcoholics. And so we started reading. He said, now, this is all about identification. He said, does this happen to you? Do you think about drinking? And then keep thinking about it, and it turned into an obsession. I said, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. He said, then do you succumb to the desire and pour it down your throat? I went, absolutely. He said, then inside of you is there's feel like kind of like an allergic reaction, and then the phenomena of craving occur. I said, I don't know what that means, but I can tell you it happens. I know that I can't stop once it's in me. I'm not stopping that, and other substances I'm not stopping. And he says, okay. He says, well, based on the information, would you say you're an alcoholic? I'm like, absolutely. He said, well, just keep moving forward. And I found out for me that book is absolutely designed for me to get in touch with a power greater than myself. But that book's whether I'm an alcoholic or I'm not. My behavior is going to prove that I'm an alcoholic. You can, because for example, I ain't had a drink in a long time, but I guarantee you in the last week or so, if you'd have heard me talk to some people, you'd probably like, wow, you know what you just said? And I'm like, and where's your alcohol? You ain't got nothing to blame it on. Because I don't know about you, when I would always get in trouble and stuff, I'd say, well, I was drunk. Well, I was high. Try to blame it on that. But it goes a lot deeper than that. And I had no clue. That first step in there to me, I mean, boy, that's a catch-22, because when I admit to that one, I better get running to them other steps. I need a lot of help. Today, need help. So, we were reading and kept on. We got into Bill's story. Did I think, drink, act like Bill? And continued reading. And we got up to this higher power thing. And, I always thought it was about a test, or I had to get it right. And what it says on that 12th step, it says practice. And I can do some practicing now. I can practice praying. I can practice writing gratitude lists. I can practice coming to meetings. If I practice something for a period of time, it becomes a way of living. It says that in the 12 and 12. Not like that, but it says that habits formed over a period of time become a way of living. And I didn't know that. I thought I had to say something profound, like wow people. He said, if you're trying to impress somebody in AA, you done hit a new bottom. I'm like, that makes sense to me too, But, this is the deal. I didn't know it was about having a relationship. I mean, I'd be quoting stuff out of the Bible, and he'd be sitting there going, yeah, that's good information. He said, now, had you been able to live that, we wouldn't be here. I'm like, whoa, okay. I'll never forget, I picked a young man up. I got to use the same thing on him. That's what happens if you stay sober a while and you work with others. I get to hear what Robert told me, and I get to repeat it to Andy. Because I ain't smart enough to come up with that. And Andy goes, wow, where did you get that from? I said, well, I didn't come up with it. So he said, have you ever had a healthy relationship? And I asked, of course, healthy? No, I'm sure not. But I didn't know what words meant. You'd ask me what a word. I'd give you a definition, thinking I'm looking you right dead in the eye, like that's what it means. You might want to look them up, see what they really mean. But he asked me, he said, you ever had a healthy relationship? I'm like, well, me and my grandmama, we had one. And he said, well, the principle behind that is you devote time to it. It's just simple stuff, Like when I'm riding down the road now, I've prayed more since I've been sober than I did. I was 42 when I got sober. April will be 14 years, and I prayed more in the last 14, probably in the last 2 weeks, more than I have my whole life, really. And that's the key to me, is the willingness to pray and do the things that are asking me to do, and I fall short on them all the time. But then I got people like Andy. One of the greatest assets to me in Alcoholics Anonymous is I can stay sober if I practice the tools, but life's going to come at me. And in sobriety, I'm going to make some mistakes. I'm here to tell you. I don't know about you, but I've made some, and they were stingers, buddy. They were stingers. And if I don't open up and start talking about that stuff, the drink's on the way. I mean, for me it is anyway. So I find people and open up and start telling them, man. And I think that really kind of makes the playing field level as to where they go, wow, man, so you really got some stuff going on kind of like me. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, But so this deal with this higher power was all about just devoting time and spending time with and having a relationship. I thought I had to know something or say something profound, or I'd be praying, come off my knees and go, okay, wait for an immediate change. And, it goes back to my lifestyle. I love immediate gratification. And that's all I ever did. You know, you let me throw a little bit of liquor down my throat, I'm going to have a change go on quick. You let me throw some substances down my throat, it's going to happen quick. It don't happen that way staying sober. You know, they say, you do the work, let God do his job. Pray like it's all up to him and work like it's all up to you. And let the results be. There's things called patience. I ain't got them, man. I ain't got no patience, you know. But if I'm going to stay sober, you know, I got to trust this higher power deal. I remember one time, y'all may experience it now, staying here. We was back here in the back room, and there was a sign that says, "The disease loves the dark." I don't know if it's back there now or not. But I was in there the other day reading with a guy, and them blinds was closed. I went to snatching them blinds up, boy. He goes, "What you doing?" I said, "The disease loves the dark." It's those kind of things. And, you know, I talk about the 3-second prayer all the time because it's so huge in my life. And Harold was doing a class one day, and he talked about it. You know, when the thought occurs, you have 3 seconds, not 13, not 23 or 33, that in the 3-second period, the brain begins to absorb more of that thought, and it just goes like that, and it gets bigger, and it gets bigger, and the next thing you know, I'm gone. I knew whenever I grabbed them car keys, I was gone. There was no doubt about it, if I had a car at that time. But it's those kind of things that I need to be paying attention to. And there are things that I can do. You know, it ain't things that I can't do. These are things that I can do. And so we continued to work, and so we got to We Agnostics, and Eddie told Bill, he says, "Bill, won't you pick your own conception?" You know. And so my sponsor told me, he said, and this ain't in the book, he said, "Get 2 sheets of paper out." He said, "One, you write what you've always heard God was, you know, like from your peers growing up, your mom, your dad, your grandma, write it down. And on another sheet of paper, write what God is to you now." So there was a lot of the same things on there. And I took them to him, and he said, "Where's that sheet of paper what you've always heard God was?" I said, "Right here." He just balled it up. He said, "Here, I'm going to hand it back to you and throw it away." He said, "Where's that other one at?" I said, "It's right here." He said, "I don't need to see what's on it." He said, "I want you to pray, become those things." And I didn't know what I was doing. You know, when I look back on it, I've always attracted people like me. You know, liquor houses, dope houses. You know, I don't want many people like, and I ain't saying this in a funny way, I don't want many people reading the Bible in them liquor houses that I was in. And nor was I sitting on the pews drinking liquor, you know. I kind of gravitate to people like me. And so I started to pray to become those things, and continued in the step work. Of course, I'd done a 4th or 5th step down here with Robert, and had a huge release with that. But we did it again, just like when if I sponsor somebody and I don't care if they leave their sponsor and they're sober, we're going to start right at the beginning of the book and we're going to go all the way through it. And I was taught to do it one way, and that's the way we do it. And so that's what we did, even though I had just left here. And there was a couple things that were kind of cute. One night I called my sponsor on the phone. I said, I'm sure it was about a girl. I guarantee you it was. And I was living at the halfway house, and I said, "Hey, Tom," I said, "you know, they said tonight that I could stay out to, say, 11, and I know I'm supposed to be at your house at 8. I said, "But being I'm going to get an extra hour, won't I just come at your house at 9, and stay there till 11 and come here?" He said, "I got a better idea." He said, "Won't you get here at 8 and stay till 11? He snatched that hour right back from me. I was going to go meet, I'm sure I was going to go meet a girl, you know, and just stare at her or something. Just stupid, you know. But so anyway, we were reading. He had the 3rd edition book, which is smaller, and I didn't know what it was. And we were sitting at his ottoman, and I had my book's a bigger one, and I looked over at his book, and he says, "What are you looking at?" I said, "I'm looking at nothing, sir." He said, "What are you looking at?" I said, and he was acting like he was a little bit irritated. And I'm like, I wasn't looking at nothing. I was lying. I said, "I wasn't looking at nothing." He goes, "No, you was looking at my book, wasn't you?" And I went, "Yes, sir, I was looking at your book." He said, "You don't need to be looking at this book." He said, "This is the sponsor's edition. This is where all the answers are." I mean, there's some fun in recovery, man. I mean, I was telling her earlier, we'd hear guys snoring back there in the back room, man. we had some fun times, and I can tell you that the things that have occurred in my life since I've gotten sober, I know that I couldn't pull it off. It's like God gave me my life when I was a young man. He said, go do the best you can with it. And I'm telling you, I did the best I could with it. And the best I could do was a divorce, being convicted felon, owing out IRS, the state, owing out banks and finance companies and neighbors and probably, people. Anyway, you could see what I'm saying. I mean, I did the best I could. Like if I'd have put down on a sheet of paper, it would have been, man, your life is terrible. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And here's the crazy thing about it. And I don't know if crazy, no, the amazing thing. Those nights that I was walking those streets, those nights I sat in them liquor houses for decades, 22 years. Those nights that I was in people's homes that I wasn't supposed to be in have came around to be the greatest asset that I have. My whole life I've been all about money. And, when as a business person you talk to people, when you talk about liability and assets, it normally is you're talking about money. So it's real simple. You take your liabilities, subtract them from your assets, and that's what your net worth is. But that ain't the truth here. See, in Alcoholics Anonymous, what I found out is what Andy was talking about earlier is it's about identification. Sitting down with a man, he goes, "You did what? You broke in people's houses? You went to jail? Well, you did what?" And they go, "Yeah." And see, I'm a firm believer that I can't come back from some place I ain't never been. That's a real big deal for me because, I know the language of the heart, and I know that if I have a good feeling inside whether somebody's shooting me straight. And so today, I think one of the reasons that I've stayed sober is my sponsor got us working with others like 9 months into AA. He said, "Frank, I'm going to tell you, there's no higher level in AA than service. It doesn't matter if you're a GSR, a DCM, whatever." He said, "But just remember how this thing got started with Bill and Bob." He said, one alcoholic talking with another. He said, and that's what we do in our line of sponsorship is we do this for fun and free. It becomes a hobby, and that's what we do. And it's been the most amazing thing. My grand sponsor lives up in Virginia Beach, and I'm going to go up there and see him on the 22nd. Andy's going to go with me. And it's a privilege, man. It's a privilege to be sober. I know some people right now that stayed sober for a while, and they drank again. And it's been a real struggle for them. And I don't know if I drank. I don't know what would happen. But I don't want to test the waters on that. And I never thought I would stay sober. They say stay sober, or go to a meeting, stay sober no matter what. I always would drink. It wasn't a secret. I'm gonna tell a little joke here. Old fella walks into a brain store and he says, "Here to look at brains." And the guy, well, they're right there on the wall, and he walks over there and he says, "How about that one right there?" He says, "Well, that one's like $25,000. That belonged to a doctor." And he said, "Oh my God, let me keep looking." So he picks another one out. He says, "What about this one?" And he said, "Well, that one's $50,000. That was a dentist." He said, "Dang, gummies are expensive." So finally he looks around, he spots one, he said, "That's the one right there." And old fella says, "Yeah." He said, "That one there is the most expensive one." He said, "How much is it?" He said, "That was $100,000. That was alcoholic. It ain't never been used." And some of these men may know, I don't know if he's still living or not, but he was a mentor of mine down in Cheraw. His name's Jack. And this is a story I normally end up with, and it's been my life in AA. Old alcoholic's drinking. His son comes up to him, little fella, probably about 5 years old. He says, "Daddy, can we throw ball?" And the fella says, "Not right now, son." He was drinking. So little fella comes off. He said, "Come back in a little while." Little fella comes back a little while later, says, "Daddy, can we throw ball?" The man seen a newspaper laying on the floor, and on the newspaper was a picture of the world. So he tore it up in a bunch of pieces and threw it on the floor down there. He said, "Son, when you put that back together," he said, we'll throw a ball." Little fella got down there in amazement. He just taped it all back together and handed it up to his dad. His dad looked at it and he said, "Son, how did you do that?" And the moral of the story, he said, "Daddy," he said, "on the other side was a picture of a man. And the moral of the story is that when God puts the man back together, the world will come." And I'm telling you, that's been my experience in AA. Thanks for letting me share tonight.